Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. And today we have Connie Whitman, an expert in sales, who's going to save us all from 2025. Connie, welcome to the program.
Omar, thank you for having me. And yes, I'm excited to be here because I love talking about sales and business. It's so easy and it's fun, and we have the best job in the world, right?
Absolutely, empowering people to be awesomer. So
True.
there's people out there that right now are doing okay in sales. So there's
Mhm.
like probably three classes of salespeople. There are the A players that walk on water, do spectacular things, and then you've got the B players that are doing a good job, oftentimes hitting quota, and then you've got the C players that maybe should be order takers and not salespeople. But the B
Right.
players, what's interesting is they've got similar training to the A players, but there's something different. And what oftentimes is different is what's happening in their mindset.
Agree.
And probably at least half of those B players, maybe more, if they could just tweak a couple of things that they've got, they'd step into the A column. What do you think about that hypothesis? And what's your experience been?
I agree. It's the bell curve, right? The bell curve is alive and well. You have the high performers that they learn something, they implement, and they go. It's just how their mind is always working, learning, executing, go. And then you have that middle part that are okay, right? And like you said, you go from struggling to meeting goal, but maybe a little bit more effort. And then you have that low 20% or 10% that probably shouldn't be in sales and should be order takers. So I agree with that theory 100%. Um, I think that middle part, especially the on the bell curve, again from that midpoint up, right? That maybe that 30% in there. I think that's where the minor tweaking could get them to full throttle, like the top performers. It's little tweaks. The lower half, right? Again, that center mark down. I think it's a little bit more work that they might need coaching and other skill sets. Not saying they can't do it. They might just have a deeper learning curve. It could be. It could be they haven't been doing it for a long time. They didn't have a great leader teaching them right out of it. It could be a multitude of reasons why they're in that lower threshold.
So here's a formula that I like. Just imagine in your mind's eye, dear listeners, that you've got skill set on the left hand side times mindset equals results. So if you had someone that's got
Great.
a weak skill set and weak mindset, poor results.
Yes,
A weak skill set and a strong mindset can get pretty decent results.
agree,
A strong skill set and a weak mindset can get uh, good results, maybe not as good as a stronger mindset or about the same, but
agree.
you get gold is where you have good skill set, good mindset. This is where you set the world on fire.
Agree. Agree. What is your thoughts on? I know what I think. What is your thought on the mindset piece that you've seen with your clients? And then I could share mine, but that you've seen, like you've dialed in, and this is the mindset piece. Because the skill is easy to teach, right? The executionable, technical, that's easy to teach. But the mindset, we have a lot of crap going on in our heads. So, what do you find with your clients are the biggest glitches? And then I could happily share my thoughts as well.
So let's share some data points or some anecdotes. You can have two people, and one person is in love with picking up the phone and talking to strangers. And you've got somebody else that is in love with talking to people that they already know, but would have a heart attack if they had to talk to a stranger, and vice versa. The person talking to strangers is like, oh, well, I don't want to sell somebody I know because they'll think I'm needy or I'm trying to get something from them. So that kind of illustrates A, we're all unique, and B, you can have a salesperson that is really good at prospecting, really good at doing presentations, fails miserably in handling objections, does a decent job in closing and getting referrals and moving on. They're pretty good. Then you can have someone else that is really poor at getting the leads coming in, those appointments, but strong everywhere else. So it's hard to find people that are strong in all areas of the sales process. And
Agree.
even people that are A players, it could be an area of weakness. Their weakness still could be like 10 times better than somebody else.
Yes.
But I think that's what we need to take a look at is okay, what's something that you know how to do, that you want to do, but you're not doing it? That's where I think mindset comes in. When you know what to do, you're not doing it, something's blocking you, then there's probably something in your mindset. And that could be, I don't deserve, or if I was only taller or sexier or I'm too good looking. In my case, I'm too good looking. People don't
Yes, me
understand.
too.
People don't believe that. And
Yeah.
so, thoughts, Connie?
It's interesting because I think the piece that I find missing with my clients is the communication piece. That's the block. So I want to go back to your example. Somebody who's just really good, that I'll pick up the phone, I'll talk to anybody, I'm not afraid, right? It doesn't matter. And then you have the people who, if I know you, I'm super comfortable talking to you, but I'm afraid to ask for the business because we know each other, right? So you have all of that going on. Here's the thing, and this is I'm going to really strip it down, simple, easy peasy here. If you know truly in your heart that that person sitting in front of you, whether you know them or not, doesn't matter right now, right? But they're in front of you and you think, oh, their need matches my resource or my solution, it's a go, right? I know I'm a good fit. Shouldn't matter if you know them or don't know them, because you're a resource, you're a solution for a potential problem they have or situation that you could remedy and make a little bit easier, right? So your heart should be, I have to do this. It is my responsibility, right? That's the first shift. It's my responsibility to help, and then fill in the blank. Now, here's the thing for those people, when we're communicating, it's people we know. We're afraid of coming across icky, salesy, right? That pushy. But if you approach someone that you do know and you say, listen, I've been thinking about you. Last time we spoke, you mentioned whatever the situation is. I don't know if you knew or know this, but that's what I do. Listen, no pressure. We know each other, so you know I'm a relevant resource. If you'd like to discuss it, I could even happily share some ideas for you to see if you think we might be a fit to work together. Gentle, but you're letting them know what you do in a very loving manner. So they're not going to feel that icky or push, right? So that's the one piece. Now, people you don't know, it's easier because it's like, hey, man, I'm good for you. I think you're good for me. Let's talk about it, especially if that person I don't know, but they're looking for the solution. I think it's just an easier conversation. So that's just one way to relieve or alleviate that angst of, I know this person. I don't want them to think I'm using the friendship for my own personal gain. Because that's, by the way, that's not cool. I don't ever use my friendships for my own personal gain. I let people get to know me. And if I can support them and help them, I'll go, they know I will go to the ends of the earth for them because I do care for them, right? On the personal side. So I think it's okay to blur the lines. I just think we have to be clear with how we're offering it and what we're doing and who we're doing it for or to.
Absolutely. And the person to blame in all of this is the coach. So let's say we're going to blame Connie. Uh, hey, Janet, my coach Connie says, people that I know, I still have to let them know what I do because I can help them. And sometimes just using your coach. My coach told me I have to do this is super easy. And Sandler, of course, goes in and says, one of the things I feel really uncomfortable is talking to my friends about what I do. But you said this, and this is what I do. And just kind of bringing it out there right up front. But I like your way better. It's gentle, it's elegant, it's easy to do. But here's how interesting human beings are. Actually, I just finished a coaching session before I got on this call about an hour before. It's a realtor. And if somebody calls him and he goes, I wonder what they want, and he won't answer the call. And then the second time they call, he's like, I didn't answer them the first time. And it just creates this thing. And he was telling me about going to a friend's house. They had actually purchased a home from him. And when he got to the house, it was him and his wife, that couple, and another couple. And the other couple that was there from a referral had called him 3 times to be their realtor, and he never called them back.
Oh,
Picking somebody else, and he lost a $27,000 commission.
oh,
So the easiest thing in the world is to talk to people that call you and they want your help. But for whatever reason, there's a psychological thing there. So today what we ended up doing was, so I also happen to be a really good hypnotist. And so what we did was say, okay, whenever the phone rings, it triggers a feeling of love inside you.
love it.
What we went was the first time he held his son in his arms at the hospital,
Nice.
that just compassionate love comes in. And then you just pick up the phone, and what he says is, hello, how can I make your day better? And that's just rewired him, that as soon as the phone rings, he just does it. And he comes from this, rather than fretting about it, step into this place of love. That doesn't mean you kind of go, I love you. It's not, it's just that that place of love is compassion, better listening, being fully present. and it's going to change his life. And sometimes teaching him the steps to do and using the rational mind to, hey, this is somebody that could be a customer or a customer that has a problem that you need to solve that you love to solve, just kind of hot wired in. And for him, it's like, boom, feel totally different. And he's going to call me back later today to say, Umar, you walk on water. This is totally brilliant.
You know, fear is a motivator. Fear can be a motivator. It can also be demotivating, right? Because I'm afraid of, and what we're afraid of is usually worse in our head than what the reality is. But see, that not answering the phone out of fear, the mindset shift becomes a critical piece of the puzzle. We all know how to answer the phone and say, hey, how can I help you today? Or, hey, Connie Whitman, how's your day going? Whatever your introduction is on the phone, we all know how to do that. It's not a skill set. It's the mind. That's where the mindset piece comes in. But isn't it funny how it translates out? And sometimes we don't even realize it. It's a blind spot. And that's why we need coaches like you, like me, whatever, to say, hey, you said this, think of a better way that, and sometimes when I've done that too, Umar, they go, I said that? I'm like, yeah, you did. And you laugh about it and say, but okay, can we learn from it? And if you learn from it, oh my God, then it wasn't a bad mistake. It was a really good mistake because you'll never make it again. Now that light is shown on it. It's not a blind spot any longer, right?
Absolutely. So you've probably had this experience before, Connie, where you know something and you're pretty good at it. And at some point later in time, you get this insight or this epiphany about that process. And all of a sudden you go from being good to being fantabulous at it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've experienced that, and I'm not sure what causes that shift. Something about just using it for a little while, you just get this insight that just deepens the learning and just makes you masterful at it. That's also a mindset shift that nobody created but yourself.
Right.
But if that can happen for you in whether it's running or whether it's dancing, or like sometimes you're dancing and it's very conscious and you're really good at it, and then all of a sudden you go into that state of flow and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? So yeah, if you can do it there, you can do it everywhere. It's a human condition. And if we could do it on purpose, wouldn't that change our world?
And I think that's the key, Umar, because I know I've done it in the past. I was working with a coach after COVID. I had to rebrand. I was all live, and now I'm pretty much digital, right? I didn't know what digital was. I didn't even know what a digital footprint was 5 years ago. But anyway, I hired a coach, and as he was asking me questions, I was like, I've been hearing about these quizzes. Now I have an assessment. He goes, don't you have a communication assessment? I go, yeah. He goes, that's a quiz. And I went, you're right. Sometimes we're so deep in the weeds of I need to learn or I need to do that you forget you're already doing what you're thinking you should be doing because it's phrased differently or it's in your thought differently or, well, I created it, so how good is it, right? All of that, it's exactly the mindset, that rhetoric, that imposter syndrome. And oh, by the way, we all have it too. I remember a really funny story. I was one of my clients, they were spotlighting local businesses. And I had banked with them. It was a bank, and I had banked with them as well. But I was training their whole bank, right, building the sales culture. And so the marketing department said, we really want to spotlight our local community partners. Would you like to be in the video? I'm like, yeah, sure. I do this all the time. I speak all the time, right? I'm like, yeah, sure, easy peasy. As I'm driving up for them to videotape the recording the interview, I call my husband and I go, what am I going to say? He goes, did they send you questions? I said, yeah, it's about my business. He goes, well, don't you know about your business? I go, yeah, but what if I go humada? He's like, I can't believe we're having this conversation. Like, are you out of your mind? I said, I'm having a panic attack. So I get there and I reiterate to them and I say, you're going to put the camera on it. I'm going humada. Can we edit it? Right? Like this was going to be written in stone. They looked at me, they go, we've been in your classes. We've seen you speak at 500 people in an. Are you freaking kidding me? I go, I know I'm going to do humada. First question, Umar, I go to answer, humada. We burst out laughing, and then I was fine. But I said to them afterwards, see that situation I got in my own head? It was about my business. I knew the answers. It wasn't like it was a trick interview, right, where they were going to blindside me with something. That's the imposter syndrome. We do it all the time. Sometimes it's just jumping in. Like after I did the humada, we laughed, and then we just started again, and it was flawless after that. But sometimes, and here's the other thing I've learned, I think that's being humble as well, that I'm not all that, right? here's the thing, don't let it debilitate you. And that's the piece of the puzzle. Fear, learn from it, be humbled by it, but you got to go forward, you got to push through it.
And I'm going to say one thing more radical. So, number one, when people say, don't worry about the fear, move forward, worry about the fear. And here's where I want you to worry about the fear. What is fear? So, Connie, I'm going to take you back in time 50,000 years. You're in the jungle. You're trying to forage for food, mangoes perhaps, and you hear a twig snap behind you. Instantly, you go, freaking tiger. And what does your body do? Fear comes in. What
Yep.
does fear do? It gives you reflexes of a cat. It makes you the strongest and the fastest you've ever been in your life because it's going to either fight like hell or run like hell. It gives you the ability to release chemicals in your body that if you get injured, you will not feel the pain. It gives you the ability to focus on the task at hand. Where's the freaking tiger? I'm only going to focus on that, not anything else.
That's right.
So that's why it was designed to make us superhuman in that moment. And somehow during these 10,000 years, we've labeled it, if I feel fear, I need to shut down and not do anything. It's like, no, your body's saying, let's go. Where do you need me to be? So let's reframe fear to say it's the best gift you ever had. And it saved your life, Connie. It saved my life. I'll give you a good example. One day I'm driving in the car and I got my hands on the steering wheel. The snow has just started to fall. Roads are really slick and the radio goes out of tune. So I dropped this hand to go check the radio. This hand pulls down. Car goes into a spin on a very narrow road. And my hand goes behind the bench seat. And I got one hand on the wheel. And I'm going, shh, shh. The car's sliding back and forth, stays on the road. And it's as if time stood still. And it's in slow motion. Nothing bad happened. And it was just like, wow. Because fear came in, it made time slow down. It gave me these cat-like reflexes. So we've all had times where this helped us, but there's a million times where I went to do something where I should have been at my best, but fear got me to kind of go, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm scared. So everyone, I'm going to hypnotize you. You're hypnotized. Fear is your friend. Use that energy to be freaking awesome.
It's true. And think about, another example too, Umar. People think about, as you're listening, you had a boss that said, well, you can't do that, or I can't promote you because, and that became our story then. That's fear, right? But we're not moving through the fear. We're believing someone else's rhetoric, right? So, and you've taken it on as your own because you're afraid of disappointing. You're afraid that you'll fail. You're afraid, whatever that fear, underlying fear is. So we allow other people to create fear for us instead of owning our own crap, right, if you will, or just own it, like my story before. It's silly, but there's a real story, right? So, but you got to fight through the fear. And the other thing too is there are people out there who will try to pull you down. Always. So how do you remain vigilant with what your objectives, what your goals are? I think that's the important piece of the puzzle as well. So I agree. If we can identify that I'm afraid, what am I really afraid of? Okay. And is it my fear or is it a projected fear from someone else? And I think we could start having that inner dialogue. I think that's how we move forward.
Here's a couple of things. So I'm going to do something that I shouldn't do for the safety of humanity. Don't bring me down. So there's that song, right? So
Yeah.
So my journey has been, so in 2021, I sold my house in May. Had the thought in April, by May, sold it, got rid of all the possessions, started traveling, went on a quest, because that's what the ancients do. And it was like, I've got some block. I fix blocks for a living, but I've got a block so deep down that I can't identify it. I'm going on this quest to figure out what it is. So I finally figured out what it was. And so I'm a very extroverted person and the center of attention. But there's a part of me holding me back. And when I finally discovered it and released it, this is what happened. So if you and I were talking and you said something about something you did yesterday, I'd hear the word yesterday. In my head, I make connections. There's a song by the Beatles called Yesterday, and that's where I would have stopped. And now, because that thing has been released, I go, yesterday, all my trouble. So it just released it. So we've all got blocks and they get subtle and subtle and deeper and deeper. And going back to that, other people bringing you down, a friend of mine, Jody, she told me this story that is so illustrative of this situation. She was young and dumb and just graduated from university, got a job as a receptionist at this architectural firm. And the head architect went, I want you to call these CEOs across the country and book me appointments. Okay. And she is a beast. She's landing appointments with all these CEOs, and her coworkers are saying, "How are you doing that? They don't want to talk to you. They're too busy. They're too important for you." And she said, after a month and a half, 2 months, I couldn't pick up the phone and do it again. So she could do it effortless because she didn't know it's a tough thing. It's just like, why wouldn't they want to talk to my boss? And she was landing appointments, and all these people around her poisoned her by saying, this is tough, it's difficult, they don't want to talk to you, they're too important. So yeah, people around us can sabotage us, and we need to stay true to who we are, which I will get to in a moment. But I've got some important questions for you, Connie. So
Yeah.
you do trainings, right?
Yes.
All right. So there's a group of people out there, when they think about training with you, and in their heads, they've got the reasons why they shouldn't train with you. Like, the reasons could be, I already know that. So in your experience, what would be the 5 reasons why people wouldn't want to train with you or me or Tony Robbins? Like, what excuses inside their heads would they have why they don't need this training, or why the training won't work for them, do you think?
It's so interesting. Yes, because people think, well, they hear the information, they go, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I could do that. Okay. But they never do it.
Yeah.
So it's the execution. And it goes back to what you said with that young lady at the architect, right? He gave her a directive. She didn't know any better, picked up the phone, clueless. Sometimes ignorance really is bliss, right? And forged forward, figuring it out. Probably had a nice personality on the phone. She probably had nice etiquette, right? And landed these positions. So I think that what happens, though, is people say, well, yeah, I could get on the phone and make appointments with CEOs, but then they don't do it because, now fill in the blank, whatever that is. So I believe that when you hire, listen, I have coaches in my life because I have blind spots just like everybody else. So I can hear information and think, well, that makes sense. But then my next thought is, again, maybe because this is what we do for a living, our thought process goes a little bit deeper. But then I'll think is, but how do I do that? That I like that concept. But where do I begin? How do I execute? How do I do it with the most ease and grace and time and money, right? How can I do this quickly and the most cost-effective way? And sometimes it's hiring someone to teach you that fast forward. So, and I'll give you a perfect example. I remember when I started my business 25 years ago, websites weren't as big as they are now, but right. I kept thinking, yeah, I need a website. So I started doing research on my own. And I thought, oh, this WordPress, I could figure this out. Yeah. Okay. Prompts you. Okay. 5 years later, I still didn't have a website. And then finally I thought, well, now you need a website, woman. And I had to hire someone. I understood the theory. I understood the importance. I understood how I could have done it. Who has the time to do that when I should be out generating business for my business? So that's the other piece of the puzzle. We have to know when to say, love the concept, love your voice, love your position system, whatever it is, right? That resonates with I'm the good solution. But then let me fast forward the results. Time and money are real, and they're really important. And sometimes we need people to come in to show us literally the shortcut, because we could do it on our own. But what time and money and energy are we exerting that we could have more money in the bank, or more time with our family, whatever the preference is for anybody listening? That's what I think the piece of the puzzle is. Yes, it makes sense. How do I do it in the quickest, most easy fashion?
That's the solution side, but I'm looking more at the problem side. So what I hear you saying is, one of the reasons people may not get a training is that I already know how to do that.
Right.
What would be another reason they wouldn't take a training?
They don't even know what the problem is. So, and that's a big one. I remember I had a client 20 years ago. I followed up with them 25 years ago. It was one of my first, somebody connected us, and they kept saying, you're too small. We need more we need more innovation. We need more technology. And I thought, oh, your people's skill level is not ready for that. But okay, you think you need this. You don't realize they spent millions of dollars on these bigger vendors who were good. There was nothing wrong with them. Was not a good fit for their values, their infrastructure, the skill. It just wasn't a good fit. Right. And then finally, after having that experience of time and money wasted and change of behavior did not happen. And then I come in, I knew, right, I had been following them. I had been talking to them, continuing to build relationships, getting a pulse of what was happening. I saw the problem with clarity. And then when I articulated it and I said, here's the real solution you're looking for, Every executive in the room, their face dropped and they said, why didn't we do this sooner? And I said, don't beat yourself up. You didn't know what you didn't know. You had to go through that experience to see with clarity what the real problem is. Yes, you needed training. You just chose the wrong training because you didn't look at the skill set. You didn't look at your infrastructure technology wise. And you just made bad decisions, but they were good decisions because it brought you here. Now we can fast forward everything you've created. Change was already in the works. We just had to leverage that going forward. So that, I think that's part of the problem. They don't even know the problem exists, or they find the solution they think is going to work for them, and it's just a misfit.
And I think what that does is also, well, we've tried this, it doesn't work. So none of the solutions in this area works.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things we need to do as salespeople is to divine what our customers are thinking and why what we're about to offer. So there's objections, but there's also, before they even have the right mindset to connect with what we're talking about, we need to define, oh, okay, so here's some of the issues that they may have. So why don't we just address it in our presentation? So we just defuse all the bombs before we even get to the end result.
That's right.
So, Connie, before we part company today, what are 3 things that salespeople need to know that if they keep that in mind, that it would allow them to make 2025 a freaking fabulous year?
Yeah, I think the first one is communication. Everybody you speak with does not think or function, brain-wise the way you do. So who's in front of you? It has to be about them. It can't be about you. And so I get asked all the time, yeah, but if I modify how I communicate, is that being inauthentic? And I said, no, that's showing you care, because I can, an example would be I fire fast, right? So if I'm talking to another salespeople, we could Zoom back and forth, 3 different topics going on at the same time. I have a client who's an architect. I can't do that with him. And not because he's not intelligent. He's much more cerebral. He needs more examples. I need to illustrate for him. I need to let him speak more and articulate more. So when I'm with him, I don't jump in. I just observe. I listen. And then I say, you've made some good points. Here are some thoughts, right? So again, I slow myself down. So communication, your message has to land for the other person. So that's one piece of the puzzle. Work on how you're communicating. Just because you're good at the way you communicate doesn't mean everybody's receiving your message. Second one is follow up, follow up, follow up. I see too many people like, oh, I have a follow up. If you don't have a system of follow up that is, as soon as you meet with a customer, what's the onboarding? Where do you put them? How do you follow? Like, it has to be right from the inception. You have to have a process. Go ahead. You want to say something?
So I was at this meeting where this guy finally landed his account, and the boss asked, so how many times did you have to follow up? 21 times.
Yep.
Because I was not a bother to them. They just, I was invisible to them till the need was there. And I happened to follow up at the right time. And they said, boom, pull the trigger, let's do it. Oh. So you're not that important that they remember. Connie called me 12 times. It's like, Connie who? Till I need her. And if she was 6 months past you following up, then she's going to lose that account and feel terrible. So what's number 3?
And the third one, I think, is you have to be disciplined. Do the things you don't want to do and do them anyway. Because what happens, right, as we do the things that are uncomfortable, they become more comfortable. It's you're challenging your comfort zone. You become more comfortable. It becomes easier. And then it's you're right up that learning curve. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, why was I so afraid of, oh, that was so easy. Why did I labor over that? Right after, again, it's the thought in our head is worse than the actual, but you have to be disciplined to pull up your big girl pants or big boy pants and just do it. Just do it, because it really does get easier over time.
To add to that, 2 things. Number 1, dear listeners, you may notice that you are not dead. And all the times we thought we would die doing this thing, it never happened.
Yeah.
Dead. And B, your comfort zone is either expanding or is shrinking. There is no status quo. So you always need to be pushing out.
Agree.
To remain where it is. And if you push out properly, then you're expanding it and you get to do more things and make the world a better place. And the world is a better place with you in it, Connie, helping people sell more stuff.
Yes.
So thank you for being on the program.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
And let us know, people that are running on treadmills right now, ready to pass out, how can they get a hold of you?
Connie at changingthesalesgame.com, or they could go to my website, changingthesalesgame.com. Again, I have a free communication style assessment they could take, some other resources. Happy to share.
Brilliant, Connie. Looking forward to our next conversation.
Same here. Thanks, Umar.